All right, I've got us recording. I will start by introducing myself briefly. I'm Jill Lalonde. I'm the executive director at OneVillage Partners. I think I probably know everybody on the call, or at least most of you. And it's great to see a lot of you on video. I miss you and miss our, interactions. So great to have you today. And I am joined by my colleague Chad McCordick, who is our country director in Sierra Leone, and is going to be telling us more about our LEAD program. And so just
Hello, folks.
briefly on the agenda before I turn it over to Chad, we will talk about why we started the LEAD program and then go through the pilot that started in 2019 and talk about our accomplishments and lessons learned and then how that plays into the future of LEAD, which we're really excited about. And then we're hoping to have some decent time for Q&A, and we'll tell you how you can support the work. So Chad, I am going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Glad to be here, everybody. I'll just dive right in. So we've been working here in Sierra Leone with our partner communities for a number of years. And the question has been, what does that next evolution look like? And we also knew that we couldn't just, it wasn't correct for us to have like our current programming exist in perpetuity. We needed to level up in a certain way. And as you know, something that we're really focused on is really putting the tools of community development directly into the hands of people. And LEAD does that. Our partners have measured changes in leadership, gender equity, and their ability to come together. And so we wanted to support them as they've seen such incredible improvement. So we wanted to support them moving forward in that. Another thing that we wanted to also make sure we were doing in LEAD, as we evolved our programming, we also wanted to make sure that we weren't forming parallel systems of leadership. We wanted to integrate with the governing systems that work there. At a village level, that's easy to do with the traditional authorities. On a broader scale, it means that we have to work better in bringing government partners into the discussion. So we spent a lot of time actually assessing the needs of the community and talking directly with our volunteers and average community members about what the next step would look like. And with that input and feedback, we've developed the LEAD program as something that can shift even more decision-making and leadership skills to our partners. So as you can see the LEAD goals right there, the objective of the program is really to build skills in leadership, project design and management, strengthen existing community networks, and improve local government capacity and civic engagement. By doing this, overall, we're going to see improvements in physical and social well-being. We can move to the next slide now. Right. So in 2019, we began a small LEAD pilot, not knowing what we had done. I should point out that this wasn't something. This was programs have done this in the past in other parts of Africa, but this was really something brand new for us and something that doesn't really exist out here in Sierra Leone. So the three communities that we chose had done completed cycles of the Community Action Project and the Nurturing Opportunities for Women program. And just a quick reminder, Nurturing Opportunities program focuses really closely at the household level to empower women with financial literacy, and Community Action is a broader project that will impact the whole community. The participating communities were submitted proposals in a competitive bid for funding projects, and the project committee members were from all sides, all aspects of the community there, but they were trained in everything that would go into a traditional project proposal. They were trained in project design, proposal writing, how to do stakeholder engagement, communication strategies, and of course, budgeting and monitoring evaluations as well. And what we also did was we brought these community members who were from different social statuses in their own community, but we brought them to one central location where they could also collaborate with other community members from other villages around. So after the training sessions, the communities wrote their proposals, and then we provided a lot of coaching and feedback and 2 winning proposals were selected. We can move on to the next slide. Right. So accomplishments. 2 proposals, the 3 communities submitted proposals and 2 were selected. And really, we were quite impressed with the holistic nature of these proposals. And we've been really excited to see how they have come through also. The community in Grima applied to rehabilitate their maternal and child health clinic. And they worked with surrounding villages there and to assess the needs of like what was needed for people who were coming in to seek services there in that community from that clinic, and what could they do to improve the structure and make it more usable. And so here you can see a picture of the structure there. They reinforced the structure itself, but also electrified it with solar panels, which was really encouraging. So this improved clinic will serve over 10,000 people in the surrounding areas. So that's a very exciting project that has just now completed. The other community that was successful in their funding was Mambama, and they scaled up their existing community center and developed a number of youth skills training workshops that were rolled out inside this training center. And they also electrified their center with solar panels so that 24 hours, these places could be used as meeting spots. So as you see here, an excellent quote from one of our participants. We feel empowered with a determination to lead our own development process with the right tools from OVP. And that's really encouraging to hear, because that's kind of exactly what we were hoping to do. Bring more tools to the relationship with the community and step back further. So initially, what we learned from the pilot was that initially our idea of providing the right kind of incentives for regional collaboration, that looked a bit different. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. I think we were looking for a broader collaboration, but what we found was there were so many smaller communities around those 2 villages that were directly impacted by this. So it happened, but it happened differently than we expected. And I think that's one of the joyous things that we find with our kind of work. It has the potential to surprise us. We also developed better relationships with the local government and brought them in a lot more effectively. And this, and by bringing them in, I mean, brought them into the training sessions, reached out to them directly, particularly the local government representatives, and made sure that there was a good conduit there. So this initial outreach to the district government really helped us when COVID struck back in April here, and we were really able to leverage those relationships and provide more direct support in a number of different ways. And we can go to the next lead. Great. So we learned quite a bit from the pilot, but as we scale up, there's a lot more ideas that we've come up with, and there continues to be a lot of really great input coming directly from the communities. So as you can see, we're going to be working in 6 communities and training 17 project committee members. Many of these project committee members are people that we've trained previously. Some of them are brand new to the whole process, and some of them have wanted an opportunity to work with OVP in a more direct way. We have people from traditional authority structures, and we have people from local government, volunteer positions, and just average citizens. So we really have a cross section from all of this. We worked specifically on streamlining the process, making it more understandable and focused on the impact that was being seen. I'm not sure how many of you have had experiences writing grant proposals or project proposals, but it's real daunting and overly complex. And I'm really excited that we thought that we were being more streamlined, but a lot of our kind of like inborn desire to, you know, I won't say complicate things, but our experience with complicated grants was coming through. So we're continuing to refine it, making it more accessible for all people. And we feel like we've got much more clear proposal system there. Ultimately, we're going to be giving out almost $20,000 in small grants to 3 communities. And we're also, of course, building off of our learning with the local government. This is an area that we've really grown by leaps and bounds in the last few years. We found that particularly during COVID, we could really leverage those relationships as I talked about before. But ongoing, we're talking about, when I say we're talking about leadership training, well, I'm not just talking about leadership as in terms of making sure that you can lead these projects, but more like, what does it mean to serve people? How do we promote transparency? Well, both within the project, but also promote transparency that makes the accountability go beyond just this project, right? How do we bring in local government into those training sessions also? And so this is a great platform that we've built, and it's what we've discovered is that this platform is a really good launching pad, like I said, for improved relationships, not just with the local government, but between communities, and longer term, we're seeing it as a good platform for increased accountabilities between your average community members and the representatives that they've elected into their community. Next slide, please. So where do we go from here? As I said, we're going to continue building off of this platform, continue to build stronger leadership and project management and bigger skills in how community members can define what they need in their own community. And hopefully later on down the road, as other funding opportunities can happen outside of OVP, these skills that they've built with us are going to be something that they can use with other opportunities, either with the local government or with other NGO partners that might be coming in. And I should point out that some of this is already happening. We've seen this in the Community Action Project, where our trained volunteers went to an NGO and gave them advice on how they could better implement this project, and talk to them about messaging and key points like that. So we want to really make sure that this continues to happen. We also, this idea of integrating with the local government and not just making sure they respond better to their community, but also how we can help them do their own job better too. We found that with our COVID response, that there were certain targeted areas that other NGOs didn't have the nimbleness to address in a real efficient way. We do, and we want to continue to build onto that. And overall, we're seeing this as our next step in where we go as an organization. I think the role and the relationship that we've developed moving forward is really one that where it's called LEAD specifically because the communities are leading, and that's something that we've been doing for a long time. But it's important to continue to evolve how we support. Being someone, we don't want to remain hands-on. We want to make sure that some of these skills kind of integrate themselves in the long term. And again, we also want to make sure that this platform remains strong long after we're involved with it too. We want to make sure that communities themselves continue to use this platform, not just for LEAD, but as a real way of engaging with each other, building a broader vision for what to do in the future, and then also working with their respective government on projects. My last piece on this is that we're already going to be, we're already starting to introduce the LEAD 2021 program to those 6 communities. And one of the first things that we did was develop, I guess I want to say they're not town halls, they're more like conferences where representatives of the government could come and join and learn about what LEAD was with potential volunteers and traditional authorities. So that worked very effectively. But what we added this time, which is something that we didn't add last time, was a specific visioning exercise. And we asked the communities, what does it look like to live in and work together in a thriving community? And as you know, that's the vision of our organization and our work, is that we want to see thriving rural communities across Africa. And it was really inspiring to see what was coming up, because I think a lot of us could understand in these sort of, really challenging environments out here that basic needs being met would be top of the list. Obviously, communities want to really make sure that they're able to do that. But what I was really encouraged to see is that a lot of our own goals and objectives, not just with the LEAD program, but as an organization, were repeated. They talked a lot about how we needed better integration, particularly with the local government, the traditional authorities, but also looking at the people who are traditionally excluded from decision-making, women and youth. And very encouragingly, when these groups defined these visions, we asked, well, how will we know that you get there? And across the board, everyone said, when more women are active in public speaking and decision-making. And when we know that our children are safe and healthy. And it's really, really encouraging that communities now, these communities who are going into LEAD have an idea of the long-term impact that they want to see. And they also know when they're going to see it. And those indicators of their own success are the kinds of indicators that we're also looking at. And I mean, this came directly from those communities, and it's really encouraging to know that we're really on the right track with the communities that we're serving. So I tried to move a little quickly, and I'm sure I might have spoken a little too quickly for some, so I'd be very happy to hear questions from folks. Also, let's give it up for the Africell Telecom company for keeping me connected this whole time, which doesn't always happen here in Sierra Leone.
Thank you so much, Chad. If you have any questions, please send them via the chat box. I think we're going to keep people muted, but Gabby, I might need your help with some questions because I'm not able to get my chat open with sharing my screen.
All good. We don't have any coming through via chat at the moment.
You can also feel free to, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question.
So I'm seeing one question right now. How does the CAG program and the LEAD program intersect? So it intersects in a lot of different, in a lot of ways. One, the CAG program is part of the community action program where a lot of the same goals that we have with LEAD we're already doing, but it's in a much more hands-on sort of way. We're really helping the community along much more. What we want to do with LEAD is make sure that those skills can be implemented independently. And what we're seeing is really encouraging as well. One of the first things that the community did in Grima was sort of to set up an unofficial kind of community-based organization that would be the leader in development. So they created their own kind of structure with different roles and responsibilities, but they also did things like go and get their own receipt books. Like they printed a little receipt book that had their own kind of logo on it. Small little things like that that showed that people were really encouraged and excited to join into this. For sure. And as I said before, also a number of CAGs joined the LEAD project committees as well. We didn't want to make it mandatory. We kept it open because we think there's lots of community members who want to be more involved with the projects also. And we wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity for them to be there.
Now, question from Frank, how's the new Daru office doing?
Oh, it's well. It's definitely, I don't know how many of you have seen the Boonaboo office, but it's definitely a step above the Boonaboo office. But it's been really encouraging because we've been able, like, we really didn't miss too much from COVID. I think when COVID started, we were really afraid that our geographical expansion was going to be put on hold. But what we found too is that when we moved into Daru, it was a much closer base to work with the district government capital that is in Kailaun. It's only like less than an hour drive from Daru. So we were able to have someone to more quickly address the issues as they were coming up. Because really, structurally, this is sort of the thing that keeps a lot of communities from being able to implement their own projects. Funding is a big issue. But really being able to advocate and get like their home built school, for example, become officially registered with the Ministry of Education. That takes a lot of work and it needs a lot of people down the road to do. And having someone directly in Daru has helped us immediately address those issues and follow up more closely.
Great. Question from Shatu. Shatu, thank you. You talk about OVP's nimbleness compared to other NGOs during the COVID response and wanting to build on that. Can you give an example?
Yeah, so I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to call out other people, but the way our funding is structured, it means that we can very easily divert funds to other areas of programs. And a lot of the organizations who are implementing larger government funded projects, they can't shift some of that funding into other areas, right? So any kind of untied funding that the organizational had, it was very difficult to kind of divert it across the organization. Whereas, and you know, other parts will receive more than other communities. For example, like a lot of the COVID response was really focused around Freetown, which is where we saw the most cases, but not as much in Kailaun, where we still saw an increase of cases up until the summer. So I think being able to immediately respond when the COVID response team was like, we're running out of food for quarantine families. We immediately were able to get food to them. Where we need a new structure to quarantine folks because our current system isn't working. We were immediately able to work with Nixon Hospital and rehabilitate that hostel to become a much more dignified quarantine spot. And I think that encouraged folks as well.
Great. Question from a rogue Zoom user. I think it might be Carol. Do you think the government might set a goal to increase the number of women in its decision-making groups?
I definitely believe, yes. This is a real fundamental part of the medium-term national development plan that the government just put out. Higher elements of gender equity, a focus on inclusion of youth and women in decision making. These are some of the core elements of their medium-term national development plan. And in addition, this government has taken a really strong stance on sexual and gender-based violence, and particularly minors also, which and making sure a lot of that is happening institutionally, and the government also is running their own programs to do so also. So yes, I don't know if it'll look exactly like the community members indicator of women involved in decision making, but it's been very encouraging to see that we have this objective of increasing involvement in this women community members have this, and the national government and the local government does as well.
Okay, I think we can probably have time for one more question. Jeff is asking, are our Sierra Leonean friends aware of the racial equity protests and discussions in the US? And if so, what is their impression?
They are very much aware of it. I think I think the impression, you would have to ask individuals. I think individuals have different ideas of their own take on it. From my perspective, I think people see that these discussions are long overdue. And I think I've had many conversations where they've looked at, they've seen the same videos that we've all seen from the summer. And they've seen these over a long period of time. And it's really sparked a discussion about how power is misused here as well. And those have been some very interesting discussions. I would say that I think, yeah, I think it's definitely, I could go on this for way too long, so I don't have time to go as much as this, but Jeff, you can hit me up later on, we can chat.
Great, well, thank you, Chad, so much for spending time with us. And thanks to everyone for joining today. Just really briefly before we log off, how you can support our work. So please engage with us on social media. We've been sharing frequent program and project updates on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, even sometimes some videos on YouTube. So please share our stories and our work, and we hope you're inspired to be an advocate for OneVillage partners. You can, of course, donate. Your contributions this year will be supporting 8 projects to improve health, education, and income in our community action program. We have 240 women in the NOW program who are building financial and business skills, and 6 communities that you heard about today that are participating in the LEAD program. So we have really ambitious goals for our impact this year, and your support is so appreciated and will really help us to achieve these ambitious goals. And finally, I hope you'll join us next month. We're going to have another town hall, and it will be a special town hall focused on our Nurturing Opportunities for Women program in honor of International Women's Day. So more details will be shared soon, but I hope you will join us. And thank you again so much for your time today. It was lovely to see many of you, and just really appreciate all that you are doing to support our work in building thriving communities in Sierra Leone. Thank you.
Shetu, I'm going to respond to you in the chat. Are we going to close